Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director, and I have no problem recommending them to you. So stay with us for the next 3 minutes. Don't hit that fast forward button as we give our sponsors a quick shout out. Here we go. We want to thank Gipper for their support of the podcast. Gipper is the official social media graphics solution for us. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to create world-class sports graphics for your school's social media channel to celebrate your athletes and promote your teams. Gipper is used and trusted by over 3,000 athletic programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to find out more. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids up to the highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap. Go to snapraise.com. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then got little, if any, return? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. And they've got an incredible platform with some other sites you should visit, like Snap Sponsor, Snap Store, FanX. You'll find it all at snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, more customization. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to show off your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, or simply celebrate your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles and bring your school's legacy to life. vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. Their products not only generate income for your athletic department, they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank Home Campus, the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, athletic clearance and eligibility, and all the things that go into that, tracking athletes, tracking teams, tracking coaches. You'll find it all at homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your players, your parents, or even your coaches, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to connect you with the folks you already hear from, the complainers, the ones that want to gripe about everything, but they're also going to connect you with the 98% that supports your program. And that's tremendously valuable information to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or maybe even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another interview on the Educational AD Podcast. We're staying right here in Florida today, and we're going to be visiting with Matt Bishop. Matt's the director of athletics at Chaminade Madonna School. That's in Hollywood, Florida, kind of Fort Lauderdale area. One of the most successful programs in Florida high school history. So we're excited to have him on. Matt Bishop, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Jake, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
We've had this scheduled for a while. I know it's been a very busy time for you, and we're going to let you talk about some of that busy stuff that really just wrapped up recently. But we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. We want to hear about your high school and your college days, and then we'll take a quick break and find out more about your early career. But What's the Matt Bishop story?
Oh man, my story. I grew up in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. Um, Blessed to have a great family. My parents, Kevin and Therese, they've supported me along the way through my journey. Always been really supportive of my role in athletics since I was a young kid. Started t-ball at 6 years old, like a lot of kids. Um, as I got older, started playing more and more sports. I, moved into basketball and football as well, and always had that family support. Like I said, I grew up in upstate New York, Rochester. Went to Greece Arcadia High School. Was blessed to have some really, really good coaches, and not just coaches, but mentors. That athletics were always more than just the sport itself. They were always a teaching lesson. There's an opportunity there to learn more than the game itself. I still keep in contact with some to this day. Chris Cleveland, who was my JV basketball coach. I was, texting with him last week. Amazing person, amazing mentor, if you will. To have people like that, once you get to be a little bit older, you appreciate them a lot more than probably when you did when you were 15 or 16 years old. After that, I attended St. Bonaventure University, go Bonnies, in upstate New York. Great experience there. Wasn't probably the star athlete that could have gone to a Division I school, out of high school. But I picked up lacrosse while I was there. Played lacrosse for a year. Just great atmosphere. Great to have people around. Keep that competitive spirit alive. So for me, that was a great experience, and obviously attended probably every single basketball game that we had in the Riley Center at St. Bonaventure. So, after high school, got into my teaching profession. Became a coach right away. Actually went back to Greece Arcadia, coach freshman basketball right out of college. Was blessed to be able to get into the teaching profession, but also the coaching aspect as well right out of college, and really had a passion for it. Especially going back to your alma mater, going back to your old high school, there's a little bit more of incentive to continue to want to be helpful in the lives of other kids. Because at the time I was only 21 years old, I was a kid myself. So, it was a great experience. And, to be able to go back to your old high school was pretty special.
Oh, absolutely. I had a chance to go back to my high school as a substitute teacher. I remember walking in. Actually, my best friend from high school became a teacher too. We went to different colleges, and we were both subbing on the same day. And we walk into the faculty room, and here's all of our old coaches, all of our old teachers, and some of the teachers look at us and they go, "You guys became teachers?" Uh, but want to go back to your high school days. I ask this question a lot. I'm always intrigued. Um, can you think of a moment? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but can you think of a moment from your high school playing days that at the time it really didn't stick out? It really didn't resonate. But now, as a coach, as an AD, years later, you can look back on that moment and it was impactful. Anything come to mind for you?
It's probably not just one moment, but the culmination of a season. My JV, I mentioned Coach Cleveland, my JV basketball coach before. He truly had belief in what I could do and what I could bring to the team. I wasn't the guy who was going to give you 20 points a game. I wasn't the guy. I remember I was the smallest guy on the team. I was 5'4". I was short, obviously I grew much, later than everybody else. But I remember him truly building me up, and having belief in what I could do, as a short little point guard who could defend, who's going to give you a ton of effort, who's probably going to take a charge every now and again. The culmination of that season, because as a freshman, I didn't play much. I played a little bit, but my sophomore year on the JV team, I started every game. And truly looking back now, I can see there was a lot of lessons in what was being taught. Coach Cleveland, had he learned from one of the best, Gene Cady at Purdue. Um, when he was a student manager there, and a lot of those lessons, you could tell now that those were lessons that he was taught, and he was trying to instill in us as young men, and a lot of life lessons that you still have to this day.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way. I look back at my high school days 100 years ago, and just that presence that some of those coaches had. And I had some young coaches that were just a couple years out of college, and it's just some veteran coaches too. I always love to hear those stories. For our listeners, our guest today is Matt Bishop. He's the director of athletics at Chaminade Madonna School down in Hollywood, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. I don't know which one it's closer to, maybe even Miami.
Definitely Fort Lauderdale.
But we're going to take our first break, but we are going to come back with some more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast.
Jake, we've really done a great job using Huddle. What an amazing product it is. We have 2 Huddle cams on both in our school. One on obviously the game field that we're able to tape and use for games and for practices as well, but also another one in our gym. Our coaches use it probably almost daily, and they're getting a lot out of it, and they're getting the most out of it as well.
Yeah, we used Huddle. I got into Huddle late as a football coach. I was still, VHS tapes and DVDs and things. But when I finally got into Huddle, it was just, you got to be kidding me. This is great. And then when I became an athletic director, I was a little concerned if the other sports would embrace it. And boy, our volleyball coach loved it. Our soccer coaches, everybody, they just loved Huddle. So thanks for sharing that. Okay.
Sure thing. The focus camera is big for us too. Being able to use that as it's really easy to use. Just simply popping the app on and turning the cam on whenever you need it. So our coaches use it literally on the daily.
Yeah, again, I would walk in the gym and see our coaches with their cell phone, turning the camera on. Very cool stuff. Thanks for sharing that, and I know our friends at Huddle appreciate that too. Okay. You mentioned, that you went to college, grew up upstate New York, St. Bonaventure, but now you're here in Florida. So, I know a little bit of your background, but share with our listeners, how did that all happen? How'd you end up down in Florida?
It was a lot of cold winters in upstate New York, and it'll push you right out of there real fast. But being in my early 20s, I was looking for something different. I wanted to change a little bit, and wanted an opportunity where I could still teach, or I could still coach. And I accepted a job at Deerfield Beach High School in Broward County here. Was lucky, to say the least. In the early 2000s, Deerfield Beach High School had a powerhouse football program, and you're talking like kids that are walking down the halls, and I got to be on the staff with that had Jason Pierre-Paul on it, the potential Hall of Famer, Denard Robinson, who played at the University of Michigan as well, and you're coaching these kids, and you're like, you're watching. The football wasn't that brand of football when I was up in upstate New York, and coming down here, it was eye-opening, to say the least. So moved down to Florida in 2004, and literally got lucky to be able to coach at Deerfield. So from there, I moved on, taught middle school for 4 years at Coral Springs Middle School. Funny thing has it is it was my second to last year there. I was coaching flag football at Coral Springs Middle, and a short little sixth grader was one of the few that was the only sixth grader on the team at the time. We had a really good flag football team, middle school. Probably weighed 80 pounds, 5'2" maybe. It was Lamar Jackson. And years later, when I was coaching high school football, like Archbishop McCarthy, we're going through the handshake line with Boynton Beach High School. And I look up, I'm 6'1". I look up, it's Lamar Jackson. And I couldn't believe it. He said, "Coach," said, "Hey, what's up? Good to see you." And he had just ran all over us. And then there's his high school highlight film is pretty popular on YouTube. If you go back to it now, you can kind of see me in the background, just watching him zoom past me and, go into the end zone. So, my story, again, got to be able to continue coaching high school football at Archbishop McCarthy. And then, my second or third year, at Archbishop, it was, watching, we had a really good baseball program, really good nationally ranked baseball program. And, some of the kids on the team were in my class, and some would struggle, and they would talk about, "Hey, I've got these 4-hour practices, it started at 3:15, 3:30." And it kind of clicked to me that I said, well, we get out at 2:30. If we can get these kids after school for a half hour, 40 minutes or so prior to practice starting, it might be a good opportunity, to sit down and work with them in the classroom. So I made a proposal to the principal, kind of talked about it, went over it, made some tweaks about a study hall program. And he was impressed by it. We instituted for our football team the following year, with lots of hiccups along the way, and lots of tweaks and changes that needed to be made with this study hall program that was going to kind of cater towards and focus in on athletes at the school. And that study hall program eventually got picked up by more and more teams. And there was a lot of work that goes in behind it. And the principal at the time said, what about you maybe becoming an assistant athletic director for the following year? So over the course of maybe 2-3 years, they kind of picked up more and more steam. And, I started picking up more and more responsibilities within the athletic department. I was the head JV football coach. I was the varsity football assistant. I was teaching 5 classes a day. I'm now becoming the assistant athletic director. It was a lot. And, having a young family at the time, I wanted to really continue to branch out and, become an athletic director, leading an athletic department was something that, I could see myself doing after, the course of a couple of years of doing this. So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of work that went into it, but, that's kind of the path, the long path, that got me to the position where I'm at right now, Chaminade Madonna.
No, I'm glad that you were able to share that. And again, you and I were talking offline a little bit, but if you were at Coral Springs Middle School, I was just around the corner at that time. I was the AD and the head football coach at Coral Springs Christian Academy.
Okay.
So we had to have been. I know we were in your gym a number of times. You
Right.
probably came over to ours. So
Absolutely.
that's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know when I was at Hillel, we played at Coral Springs, Coral Springs Christian once or twice as well.
Yeah, very cool. That's cool. I got a question. You mentioned 4-hour practices, and long story short, I later in my career I became a much bigger proponent of less is more. You have coached and you've been the AD at programs, national programs, state championship programs. What is your take on that as an AD? I know from a coaching standpoint, it's, hey, we got to run that play one more time. We got to get one more drill. What's your thoughts on that real quick?
I would wholeheartedly agree with less is more. I mean, if you're going to lose kids' attention spans after, 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours really should be a max for a practice as far as I'm concerned. Keeping kids there all day. They might love the sport, but we don't want to burn them out. And the one of the biggest things that I would say, and to kind of piggyback off that thought of less is more, but you can really get if you can get a good hour and a half to 2 hours of coaching in that time period, I think that's gonna be a lot more beneficial to the student athlete as opposed to a 3 or 4 hour practice where a lot of it becomes monotonous and you're getting reps in, that aren't as quality. I would prefer quality over quantity over any day when it comes to the reps and what I see out of coaches when I pop into a practice, just to kind of observe to see what's going on, what is being done and what's the purpose behind it.
Oh, yeah, that's so great to hear. As an AD, I had some teams at our schools that were state champs. As a coach, I never got to experience that, but in talking with those championship coaches, almost 100%, it's been that way. Less is more. We want to come in. They're organized. They have that attention to detail, but there's high energy. The kids are engaged, the coaches are engaged, and just I was curious, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. We're gonna go and take another quick break. Our guest today is Matt Bishop, longtime coach and athletic administrator here in Florida, currently the director of athletics at Chaminade Madonna in Hollywood, Florida. Let's take that break, but we're coming back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets at your school, not just for athletic events, but for things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part. Every school is assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. Like I said, it's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thanks to our friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. Like I said, it's a great way to display your school's accomplishments and showcase your school's greatest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Matt, one of the things that we try to do with this podcast is the idea of sharing best practices. So once again, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that you do at Chaminade Madonna that you're particularly proud of? Now, these might be things that have been going on for years and years, and you just keep doing them, or it might have been an initiative like your study hall program that you brought with you from Archbishop McCarthy. But what are some best practices you can share with our listeners?
I think one of the things that is key in any athletic program in any school in general is having good parent support. We have an athletic association on our campus. I started in July of 2020, right in the middle of COVID, and people were staying away from one another. Like let's call it like it is. And there was only, I think, at the first athletic association meeting that I held in September of 2020, introducing myself to new people. I thought there was going to be 50, 60 people on board, all masked up. But when I first started, I realized that what, we need to build this thing up a little bit more. There's only 5 people that showed up. We've grown our athletic department, our athletic association significantly. We get a lot more parent volunteers right now that want to help out, especially for our bigger events. Parent involvement is really, really important to any school in general, not just the athletic department, but the school in general. And the more parents that you have that are invested into what you're doing, it's only going to increase the profile of your school. So that's probably for me one of the biggest things that we've been able to grow over the last couple of years.
Now, our careers in Florida have primarily been at private schools, independent schools. There's a lot of labels for that. Um, was just at the NADC conference in Orlando a few weeks ago, and in many of the workshops, I would hear the phrase from public school ADs talking about entitled parents and entitled student athletes. And your kids, the kids that I had, they're all great kids. But
Right.
I guess perspective and commentary on, let's say, parents and kids in 2023?
I mean, really, and I'm going to use a word that I think in the last couple of years has been used over and over and over again, and it's maybe lost its value, is the word culture. The culture of a school needs to be paramount to anything that is going on within teams, within programs, within your school. Entitled parents and entitled student athletes can infect teams, and they can really affect in the long term, the direction that your team is headed. Sniffing that out right away, and people that have alternative agendas, and you want your coaches to kind of be very keen to make sure that the team aspect is paramount to everything that you do. And when we hire coaches, and one of the first questions we talked about, how do you deal with a parent who has it's usually about playing time. And then that's what it comes down to, is that their student athlete, their kid, is not getting the playing time that they want. Being at a private school, I think we probably see this a lot, because the parents are paying quote unquote customers, and they can take their game somewhere else if they want. If you have a culture that breeds success, you're going to have people that want to latch on to your success. And coaches have to understand and be able to convey the message to parents that we have a team culture here. No one's guaranteed anything, but everybody's guaranteed something. And your role in the team, whether it's, a practice player or, star player, everybody has a role, and that role is important to the team's overall success. You'll find out pretty quick who's on board with that message, by, what the reaction is. And you can see that some parents are hover parents, that they're going to be trying to coach up Johnny during a game from the bleachers. And as an athletic director, you have to support your coaches, and you have to support your teams, to be able to eliminate that. And in the long run, you're going to benefit, because by and large, most people are want what's best, not just for their kid, but for the team as well, because they know that being on a successful team, there's going to be the opportunity for their kid to shine.
Yeah, very good stuff. And I love the part you mentioned about, communicating, kind of getting out in front of it. This is how we roll. When you hire coaches, you kind of let them know what they're in for. Um, can you give an example? I know you've been at Chaminade now for a few years, and again, they're continuing to have great success. Can you give an example of where a coach did just a really good job of, whether it was, communicating that headed off a potential problem, or maybe, as you mentioned playing time. The classic line is, "Hey coach, you got a minute?" Well, it's never a minute. And you say, "Okay," and they go, "I promise it's not about playing time." It's always about playing
Always
time.
about
But
playing time.
maybe something came up, and maybe it was playing time or something like that, but your coach, because of the systems that you have put in place, was able to navigate that, and it turned out in a positive way. Anything come to mind?
Actually, Jane, it's funny you mentioned this, because something that in the last couple months has popped up is when student athletes come into a school, especially a private school, they may not be ready for the academic rigor that exists. And one of our coaches recently had to sit one of his best players because the player told him, yeah, I'm going to study hall, I'm doing this. And the athletic director got the email first that I had to convey the message to the coach that, hey, so and so is not attending the study hall that he said he was, and that was dealt with swiftly because the coach has enough foresight to see that if he allows this to happen, if he allows um, the student athlete to continue on the path that they're on, it's not going to benefit them, but it's also not going to benefit the team because you're talking about potentially somebody who could affect what the overall outcome is in games by not being in the game, but to cut that off right away, to get involved right away, and to have that communication, you're really setting a standard for not just that student athlete, but the rest of the kids on that are involved in the program as well. You pull that kid out once, it's going to get everybody's attention, and not just the kids' attention, and not just the rest of the coaching staff, the parents as well. Now the parents have got to be on board with what you're doing, and got to see that there's a bigger a bigger message that's trying to be sent here. And again, it comes back to culture. That if Johnny sits these next 2 games, Johnny's not going to make that mistake again. And if he does, it's fully on him. So the communication and the culture are really paramount to anything that a coach is trying to convey to his team or teams or program, depending on sport. You're dealing with young kids that are impressionable, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. And not everybody's going to be, the Division I recruit. Your academics have to come first. And when a coach says that he's going to step in and maybe take a step back and say, hey, we're as a team gonna tackle this. We're not going to allow for this. We're not going to let it happen. The message is sent, and then you got to support the coach. You got to fully support the coach in that, and because as the athletic director, it doesn't do us any good to put kids out on the floor or on the field that aren't taking care of their academics, because their academics are first. They're called student athletes. They're not called athlete students, and that's one of the first messages when we have our coaches meeting at the beginning of the year. That's one of the first things we talk about is that the kids being student athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the students, their currency is, class attendance, class performance, behavior, of course.
Absolutely.
From a coaching standpoint, our currency is playing time.
Yeah.
And, if that coach is not, if he's just talking the talk, but then the star player, doesn't perform in one of those areas and they let him get away with it, but then enforces it with the bench player, everybody's going to see that too. So,
Right.
great stuff. Okay. We're going to take another break, but we're not done yet. We're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast, and our guest is Matt Bishop, the Director of Athletics at Chaminade Madonna in Florida. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with some more. We want to thank Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards for their support of the podcast. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Of course, we use it for home games, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and the customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. Sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It can also be your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, athletic eligibility and clearance, uploading the forms and the data, helping parents do it themselves, coaches clearances, and a whole lot more. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just great. And the Home Campus team is great to work with too. To get signed up, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Matt Bishop, He's the director of athletics at Chaminade Madonna, a very, very successful school in South Florida. Matt, we're recording, and again, for our listeners, we're recording this on December 22nd. So it's going to be very timely as you listen to it. Matt, your football team just has come off a state championship. I'll say another state championship is very successful. Certainly, you're celebrating that, and you should. But as an AD, how do you avoid, or let's say manage, uh, coaches or parents coming up to you, and these are my words, saying things like, well, all you care about is football. Why don't you care about our sport or our teams? How do you manage that?
I think one of the things, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before with our parent athletic association, keeping people involved, keeping people engaged. Um, you want to not show favoritism for any one program over another. The more successful we all are, the better off we all are. And you don't, as an athletic director, it's great to celebrate the wins on the field. But it's also important to boost up, the overall participation and also of your teams, but also boost up the profile as well. And that's one of the things we're trying to do with all of our programs is boost up the profile of the school through athletics. And really, once parents can see that they can be involved, whether it's at the concession stand or helping out at the ticket booth for various games, keeping people engaged, keeping people active and involved shows that you care. And the more that you're there supporting your teams and present and listen, parents will pull you aside almost every game and say, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, they're looking for an opinion. And a lot of times they just want to be heard. So, our parent athletic association is important. Keeping alumni involved and engaged is really, really important as well. The more you can do, pass your business card out. Like, to me, that would be one of the things. Hey, give me a call, shoot me an email. I'll respond. Just trying to be present for everyone and not just for teams that are successful.
Looking at your coaches and the coaches of all your programs, what are some things that you've done to help build that community of coaches, where they're happy for everyone's success, and
Right.
Maybe that young coach can pick the brain of a veteran coach. Anything come to mind that you can share?
And I think, when we have our coaches meeting at the beginning of the year, showing especially new coaches who are new to the campus, that they're all in this together. Coaches meeting is so important. It sets kind of ground rules, some standards that we expect to meet at the school. And again, really reinforcing the fact that we are a school first. The school is going to be here long after any of us finish our careers at the school. So the school does not begin and end with one sport, one team. We're there for one another, and that we're always going to promote a culture that promotes and celebrates one another. I'll give a perfect example. Our baseball coach, who's new this year, has been utilizing our track coach, and they're both new this year to work on speed. Because he realizes the value of stealing a base here, being able to bunt somebody over. He sees that his team needs to improve in one certain area, and he can use somebody else to help that. When we got two coaches that are literally working together, that promotes a culture that is really gonna shine and bring everybody's profile up. And when I saw that a couple of weeks ago, I was really super excited to see that.
I'm going to throw one more ambush question at you here. Again, most states, or many states this time of year, they're going through realignment, and Florida is certainly no different. We're just coming out of a 2-year realignment where there were different classifications, let's say newer classifications. And the FHSAA, long story short, has decided they're not going to continue that. What are your thoughts on it? Maybe what are responses maybe to some of the debate that's going on? Just curious to hear your thoughts.
It's funny. I mean, because I mean, within the last probably 2 hours, the FHSA has proposed a new classification. They put everybody in certain classifications based more upon size more than anything else across sports, not just one sport or another. You know, it's I think until the state gets a handle of the transfers, and kids going from one school to the next and being eligible right away, it's going to continue. The open seating policy that public schools have, I don't know if the FHSA, they thought that was going to work. It doesn't seem like it has. And that's, every idea has its, well-intentioned results that it's trying to achieve, but I don't know if the keeping seats open and finding seats open for students for the public schools has worked. Private schools, we're a little bit different. We have seats that are open, seats that may not be open, but really until I think a lot of the transfer issues get taken on head on, I don't know if realignment's just going to continue to or it's going to continue maybe to happen every 2 years with 2-year cycles. We'll see with the next cycle. Literally within the last 2 hours, the FHSA has put new classifications together. We'll see how it shakes out in maybe the next year to come or so.
Yeah, if you're listening to this from another state, in Florida, and this isn't our state association, this is our state legislature. They did this a number of years ago. A student athlete or a student can play football or volleyball. They can play a fall sport at school A. When that season's over, they can transfer to school B, participate in a winter sport. And when that season is over, they can transfer to a third school and legally fully participate in a spring sport. I guarantee you there's not a single athletic director or coach in the state of Florida that is in favor of this rule. And if there is, I want them to call me or email me. We're going to get you on the show. It's not what we would call a best practice. And of course, now ADs and coaches have to work with this. So classification is a little bit different in Florida than it might be at your school. I'd like to hear if there's any other states that have that. Matt, thanks so much for sharing with us today. Congratulations on all the success that you've had, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. So we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 items in their toolbox. So let's take that final break, and then we're going to see what Matt Bishop puts in his new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. If you have never used a survey to take the pulse of your players, your parents, or even your coaches, you're really missing out. We use surveys at my schools for just about everything. And the folks at athleticsurveys.com can create a custom survey that, like I said, will let you take the pulse of the people at your school. And that's a tremendously valuable piece of information to have when you're talking with your principal, your school board, or even a frustrated parent. Athletic directors already hear back from the people who want to complain. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they'll also connect you with the 98% of your parents that support your program. You can get that custom survey just by going to athleticsurveys.com. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Matt Bishop. He's the athletic director at Chaminade Madonna School here in Florida. Tremendously successful program, but right now I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on the very first job, but I'm only going to let him put three things in the toolbox. So, Matt, what three items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
I don't know if they're actual tools, but maybe some tips, maybe some ideas to think about. I think first and foremost is for an athletic director, you got to remember why you're there, and it's for the kids. Like any athletic director that's getting into this position, and they're hoping to achieve some limelight or get their name in the paper, you're in the wrong position. I think remembering that the kids are first, the kids are foremost, and the kids are the only reason why we're there is the most important thing. Second was probably be and always have a plan, and have a plan for plan B. Be prepared, and when something goes awry, when something goes sideways, be prepared that it is going to go sideways, and have a path kind of already planned. For me, being an overthinker the way I am, I always try to have a plan for plan B. And I think finally, is to be genuine, be yourself. If you're yourself, and you adhere to the first two things, being prepared, and remembering why you're there, you're going to be authentic, and it's going to shine through to people, and especially you're being at a private school, your clientele, your kids and your parents, your families. They're going to see that you genuinely want what's best for them. So I would say that those are probably my biggest three tips, tools, call it what you want, for athletic directors.
Oh, I love them all, and anybody who's been an AD for a couple of seasons, let's say, not even years, knows the importance of that plan A and plan B, because it doesn't take long for plan A to no longer be appropriate. So great stuff, Matt. We should have done this earlier, but we're going to do it now. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, maybe add you to their network of ADs, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Oh, social media. Obviously I'm on LinkedIn. If anybody would search my name and the school I work at, Chaminade Madonna in Hollywood, Florida, please reach out. I'm be happy to share things that I've learned, situations I've gone through, to move forward, and to try to tackle this thing where there's always a support system within the AD community, and there are always people you can ask with what they've experienced in the past. And also my email, mbishop@cmlions.org. Be happy to share my thoughts on what I've experienced as an athletic director.
Well, Matt, thanks again for sharing with our listeners today, and all the best moving forward in 2024.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Thanks for having me.
For our listeners, we do this just about every day with new content. We also upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, we appreciate you listening. Come back next week for another great interview. And like I said, just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.